Who could imagine Daniel Ricciardo walking back to Red Bull racing? Well, I'm sure you never imagined that. At the end of 2022, Daniel Ricciardo surprised the Formula One community when it was revealed that he would rejoin Red Bull racing in 2023. Considering the Australian's difficult time at McLaren in the 2021 and 2022 seasons, his return was such an immense relief. The 8-time Formula One champion Daniel Ricciardo is Red Bull's third driver for the 2023 season. Ricciardo and other team leaders discussed high career during the Australian Grand Prix. In preparation for the 2019 season, Ricciardo departed Red Bull and joined Renault. The Australian left the French manufacturer after 2 years and joined McLaren, where his triumph at the Italian Grand Prix in 2021 accentuated a generally disappointing season. Ricciardo returned to Red Bull as a reserve driver for the current season after losing out on the starting seat. But the driver, who joined the grand final winning team in the first place, is different from the one who departed. The team has had plenty of time to stop these behaviours since Ricciardo's return to Red Bull was announced at the end of November. The renowned Australian made his first appearance on the Formula One circuit since departing McLaren after the 2022 season last weekend, and the record-breaking home fans welcomed him back with open arms. Despite some brilliant moments, most notably an accomplishment for McLaren at Monza in 2021, Ricciardo's reputation has deteriorated over time. And even if Ricciardo is holding out for a drive in a competitive car, his popularity and commercial value alone might nearly ensure him a place on some teams. As a result, it is uncertain whether any offers to tempt him back onto the starting grid will come his way. Throughout the Australian Grand Prix weekend, Ricciardo discussed his future in conversation with several team owners who have either worked with him or have attempted to work with him in the past. Ricciardo is still clearly in demand in Formula One, but for the time being, the 33-year-old will have to make do with his reserve driver position with Red Bull while he attempts to get back a spot on the starting grid. Although Daniel Ricciardo had wanted to start from the front row for the Australian Grand Prix, Christian Horner was all praise for the local hero, and his arrival in the Red Bull workshop had a positive effect on the squad. Christian Horner, CEO of Red Bull, who earlier in his career guided Ricciardo's growth with the team, made a startling remark regarding the Australian. Horner was particularly eager to draw out the enhancements Ricciardo has made to the environment since joining Red Bull again. Despite their early worries, Horner maintains that Ricciardo quickly started to resemble the driver who won 7 races in 5 seasons with Red Bull after taking some time off during the winter. Numerous teams contacted the driver about taking a driver's seat, but in the end, he decided to sit it out for a year while accepting Red Bull's request to serve as their reserve driver and indulging in media work. Many felt relieved to see the Honey Badger back with the team, who never wanted to see him leave in the first place. Unbeknownst to some, Ricciardo's 2018 exit was sparked by events at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which will take place there again on the final day of April. Ricciardo declined offers to drive for teams unlikely to compete for points, and his attitude doesn't seem to have altered. As a result, he's on the pit wall rather than in a vehicle. The fact that Lando Norris completely outclassed Daniel Ricciardo at McLaren has hurt Ricciardo's reputation, but the Australian driver thinks the opportunity to drive a competitive vehicle can resurrect him. He had been steadily losing ground all of 2018. He defeated Sebastian Vettel, a teammate at the time he signed for Red Bull in 2014. He defeated Daniel Kvyat in 2015 as well, but in 2016, Max Verstappen, Kvyat's replacement, proved to be his match. The two struggled through 2017 in an F1 car that was occasionally competitive for the win, but things heated up in 2018 when they competed against one another in a tougher vehicle. Verstappen and Ricciardo were running 4th and 5th in the Baku event on lap 40 of 51 when the Australian driver lined up to overtake his Dutch colleague as they approached the finish line. Ricciardo quickly came up on Verstappen with his DRS engaged, but the younger Red Bull driver drove back in front of the other Red Bull after already making a defensive maneuver. Eventually, it had a massive backfire. The squad departed the race with no points when the two drivers withdrew from it. The Red Bull team did not hold Verstappen accountable, despite race control's determination that it was a racing event not calling for additional action. Ricciardo left the squad at the end of 2018 in shock and joined Renault for the 2019 and 2020 seasons. With 1-2 finishes in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, Red Bull has had a great start to the season, winning all 3 races. The RB19 is unquestionably the car that every driver on the grid would want to be in right now. Verstappen, who appears to be headed for a 3rd straight world title, and Perez, whose contract extends through the end of 2024, pose 2 significant difficulties for Ricciardo. In the long run, there have also been rumours that Red Bull would endorse Yuki Tsunoda from AlphaTauri rather than place Ricciardo in the driver's seat if Verstappen or Perez were unable to participate in a race this season. And even though that might not be more to do with contractual requirements and performance standards, it seems like Ricciardo is a long way from piloting a Red Bull in a competitive setting. As a bit of an outsider at his own Grand Prix, Ricciardo put on a brave face as he sat on the Red Bull pit wall and saw Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez operating the RB19. The 33-year-old claims that time away from the track has made his desire to return to racing clear. It would have been unpleasant for him to be on the periphery in front of a fervent Australian crowd. While Ricciardo seems emphatic that he will only return in a competitive car, it seems exceedingly improbable that a seat would open up at Red Bull or one of their primary rivals, Mercedes, Ferrari or Aston Martin. Norris would surely be ahead of Ricciardo in line for the seat, even if a desirable one became available. Therefore, the most likely scenario for a permanent return of Ricciardo would seem to be a team persuading him that they can take a major stride forward to compete at the front, like Aston Martin did. Last season, Haas was frequently connected to Ricciardo, but a deal fell through before Nico Hülkenberg took Gunther Steiner's second seat. The German veteran's tremendously spectacular return to Formula One may motivate Ricciardo, but it also suggests that another opportunity may have vanished. There were discussions regarding a potential return to Alpine, the team that Ricciardo had left 2 years prior after Oscar Piastri's McLaren replacement was made official. They ultimately decided to sign both teammate Esteban Ocon and AlphaTauri player Pierre Gasly, whose deal runs through to the 2024 season. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix occurs from April 28 through April 30 on the last day of this month. As the fourth race of the year, it offers the crews and drivers another exclusive hurdle as they compete on the historic Baku streets. But funnily enough, Ricciardo isn't going to be there. His contract with Red Bull includes the perk of not going to all 23 of the races scheduled for this year, with Red Bull offering the freedom to take breaks from the sport. Where and when we will see him next in 2023 after attending the Australian Grand Prix? Well, it seems he'll be available for several events. Miami, Texas and Las Vegas are 3 American races, with Miami holding place from May 5 to May 7, 1 week after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With that said, it begs the question of why on earth Red Bull decided to re-sign Ricciardo if they had no plans to ever let him compete. Who knows? And even though we are curious to get an answer to this question, we only get to make assumptions in the end. But what do you think about the Ricciardo situation? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons. Most importantly, don't forget to click the bell icons to be notified when a new video is uploaded. Also, feel free to leave a comment if you have any recommendations for videos. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks once again.